This is a video in response to Mark at Eat Carbs Outdoors. He left a comment on one of my videos asking to see what I take in my pack for a normal day of, say, hunting or scouting or something like that. I don't say hiking because to me hiking implies that you're going to be on a trail or something like that where, you know, there's a known path in and a known path out. Not saying that you can't get lost that way. You still absolutely can. But this is what I would carry if I was just going to go walk around, explore an area, and there's a good possibility that I could get lost. Now granted, the area that I'm in now, really all I would have to do to find my way back is to climb up to the nearest peak, and I'm so high in the mountains where I camp that I can get my direction back pretty easily. But that's not to say that I can't lose my vehicle or something like that up there, and you know, who knows, you get turned around in a million different ways. So in my pack I do keep some survival gear, I guess you could say, and a couple of just items that I enjoy. But the most important things to me are the things that keep you from getting in that trouble to start with. And for me, that would be these three items. So inside this little guy is just, I even have the instructions for it still, Brunton compass, and it does have a small mirror inside. Yeah, it's got a couple of bubbles inside now too, I see. That's very unfortunate. Might have to switch compass brands because that wasn't exactly a cheap compass. Alright, so have that in here. I have a Ride in the Rain tablet, and I don't have a map. Normally I carry a map of the area inside of one of these pouches as well. Mechanical pencil, just so that I can, for example, sometimes what I'll do is, I also carry a Sharpie in my bag. I'll take some of this flagging tape and I'll tape up certain trees so I can see the tape coming or going either direction, and I'll write on my tape the bearing that I need to follow, or the course that I need to follow back to another area, or even to another piece of tape, which will then give me another course, you know, all of which is written down in the book when I do that anyway. But I think it's a very important thing to note is that you know, I am not a unique snowflake. I can get lost just like anyone else, and in order to prevent that, I have to take certain measures. So these are my measures to do that. If I'm going to an area where I'm not familiar with the area, I will definitely flag my, or blaze my trail, so to speak. That way I can easily get back. And I try to leave the last two markers visible, not just the last one, because one may get pulled down. You know, it happens. So that's what I consider most important, is just not allowing yourself to be in a position to where you have to spend the night to start with. But it still can absolutely happen. So in that case, what I do, actually let me go ahead and clear this table off so I can put more things up here. Should that occur, love them or hate them, I do carry one of these Arcturus survival blankets. If nothing else, it'd make a good reflector or ground cloth, or who knows, you know, just something to sleep on top of, because where I'm at, if you're sleeping directly on the ground, you're getting wet, even if it's not raining. So I'll just leave that up here as part of the system. So next up, this little bag. In here I have this, and you may have seen this tied into a branch or a tree or something like that at some point, just to flag the location of my camp to make it a little easier to find. Also, you know, there's obvious survival uses for that. It could be a bandage, it could be a sling, it could be a water filter, or you could just wipe the sweat off your damn head. This is a Stand Sport ripstop nylon tarp, and I feel like with these two together, you know, I can use one as a ground cloth and the other one as actual cover, or vice versa, depending on what the situation is. But one thing I also like about having this tarp that I use and don't have to fold up all the time, that's one point. But I can also hang this tarp up in a way that it provides me just a large rectangular area that I could sit up underneath while it's raining and just wait out a storm, or I can make, you know, any of your normal bushcraft style shelters or survival shelters or anything like that, and, you know, get out of the rain if I have to. I actually, the last hunting trip where I said utterly failed squirrel hunt or something like that, I actually was under this for a little while because it did start raining on me. And inside the bag I do keep 4 stakes, and up there I don't need the little metal ones that I normally take with me. These do just fine in that terrain. And I do, that's just an extra little piece of bank line, but I do have a pre-made ridge line with prusik knots already tied into it. So all I have to do is run one of these loops through one of these grommets, and usually what I'll do is I'll just put a toggle right through there like that, and then when I have that ridge line run, I can just pull those prusik knots out to tighten up the tarp. I can tighten the ridge line as tight as I want to make it, you know, so it plays like a guitar string if I want to, and then I can pull those prusik knots out to tension the tarp to the tension that I want it to without having to rip my grommets out of my tarp, because, you know, it's a cheap tarp. It's not the strongest thing in the world, so I have to be mindful of it. I wouldn't say careful, but at least mindful. Okay, so there's this system. So that right there is pretty much my survival shelter system right there. That maybe weighs a couple of pounds at most, and I usually fit all of that in this bag. This bag also gives me something I can sit on, I can kneel on. It can even be a game bag if it has to be, or I can collect tinder with it. It is waterproof. No worries there. Okay, next up. So I would not, or well, also we'll add this to the survival section. I do carry a headlamp, just because if you get stuck out somewhere at night, you know, you may have a fire, but also you might have to get up in the middle of the night and collect firewood or go take a piss, or who knows. Also, I keep my Silky in my other pack, but I do keep this Baco Laplander, which has served me well for quite a long time. You can see it's got some wear on it, but it still cuts great. No reason to change the blade out or anything like that just yet, although I thought about ordering a blade just as a spare. So this is the Turava Jikari Puko 140. Has also served me very well. It's a pretty tough knife. I've been able to scrape ferro rods with it just fine. A lot of people said they have trouble, but you know, if you scrape it like that, you get a much better spark than if you try to scrape it straight like that. This again is the 140. I love the handle on it, and the thing is, it's just a tank. So I'm not afraid to beat this thing up if I need to. No holds barred with no holds barred with this guy. So. Good knife. The sheath, the sheath is a little rough, but this was one that I made while camping. There is a video on it if you want to look at it. I think it's called Knife Life or something like that. I had I had gotten this webbing from, I think it was from a surplus store. She just gave it to me. So I went and did the old blanket stitch on the edge. And it's not perfect, but hey, there's no cadre yelling at me. It doesn't matter. It'll do the job. I set the snap, got the snaps from Hobby Lobby, and you know, it wiggles a little bit, but it's not going anywhere. It's not coming out. And it's been a great knife. So, you know, I feel like a lot of this stuff is just your basic bushcrafter survival items. So, in addition to that, I do carry just a SAK, Swiss Army knife, for the tools and the tweezers and the toothpick and all that kind of stuff that it has on it. You know, your screwdriver bits and everything. Just in case. The shotgun that I bring doesn't require any tools to break it down or anything like that, but you know, you never can tell sometimes. Let's see, what else do I have here? Obviously some gloves from cutting or sawing or collecting firewood. You know, if you don't know where you're putting your hand, it's never a bad thing to have some gloves. And that's all that is in that pocket. Speaking of gloves, I do carry some vinyl gloves for cleaning game and things like that. And just, not that it bothers me to get the blood or anything and all that all over my hands, it's just easier to carry this than it is to find some place to wash my hands properly, especially before I get in my vehicle and all that, and get blood all over my steering wheel, and then my kids get in there and touch it, and you know, it's just easier to keep clean that way. So obviously, if you're going hunting, you're going to have any, you know, hunting licenses or tags with you. Also, the gallon Ziploc bag doesn't hurt to put your game in. Cutting board, obviously, for cleaning your game if you don't have a nice clean spot to do so. I usually just use a stump. This I bring almost just out of habit and just in case I need it for something, but most of the time it's just in my pack because I have one in each pack and that's where they stay. So, like I said, the Ziploc bag is definitely good for, you know, putting your game in, and I have an ice chest full of ice that stays in my vehicle so that I can put the game in the bag, then put the bag in the ice chest, and now I'm not contaminating all that would-be drinkable water in that ice chest. Also, just some gloves to keep warm as well. These knit gloves, just to stay warm. That's all they're for. So next up is my little Mora 511. This knife I keep razor sharp. This is what I clean my game with. This guy cleaned a squirrel earlier today, actually, so. So, right here, I have a titanium spork, Nalgene, still full of water, and just a, I want to say it's Tokes. That's why I keep this thing on there, because those edges can be kind of sharp some places. Yeah, Tokes titanium 750 milliliter, sorry, pot with a lid. And that 750 nests with this Nalgene. Lid fits underneath in the bag. So I mean, that right there pretty much covers, and in some cases duplicates, your basic survival items that you would need for you know, at least a few days stay. if you had to, if it came to that point. All right, so I think we've gotten past all the real important things. I do have some spare cordage in here, some spare bank line, some spare paracord, nothing extravagant. Do keep a poncho, just one of these little plastic ones. I'd like to get a military poncho at some point and throw it in here, but it's, you know, for short term, if I'm just trying to get out of the rain or get back to my vehicle and I'm not going to be under these tarps or anything, this will last long enough for me to get back to my vehicle. All right, now items just for enjoyment. Many of you know that most of the time when I go out in the woods, I say many, there aren't very many of you, but those of you that do watch my videos know I usually have coffee or something like that, and oatmeal or some kind of breakfast. And for the convenience of that, I just bring one of these little containers and one of these little Primus Trail Classic burners. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen these before. Not exactly the most lightweight thing in the world, but they work well. So that's carried. I can just put that little pot on there, boil up some water. I usually carry one of these oatmeal containers in there, 14 grams of protein, peanut butter, chocolate chip. You know, that would get me something. And also a couple of these little packets of coffee, just because I like having coffee in the woods. It's good. Let's see, what else do I have here? Okay. I guess as part of the survival situation, I do carry this little, if I can get it open. There it is. It's just tightly sealed, which is why I chose it. It's an old pipe tobacco container. I have a ferro rod with some jute twine wrapped around it, and it actually has its own little scraper as well. This is a makeup pad with wax, and these over here are cotton balls and Vaseline. So that's my, oh crap, this isn't fun anymore kit. Another item added to the pleasure category is my pipe kit. So I have a pipe, whatever tobacco I want to smoke that day, and I usually carry 2 big lighters. I just have one out right now because it's over there. And a little piece of leather. It could be a pot holder, or it could be something to lay my tobacco out on to dry a little bit, because sometimes they do come a little bit wet. Now, I do have also 2 of these little Derma-Safe razor blades. It says derma-safe.com if you want to look them up. And it's just an extremely sharp little razor blade. That's it's kind of a friction folder. It folds up into the little plastic case, and there it is. But these things are great for cleaning small game or medium-sized game, honestly, because they're extremely sharp. They go through, you know, flesh very easily, which kind of confuses me about the name, you know, Derma-Safe. But and also they're cheap and they're disposable. So if you don't want to get this dirty and smelling like you know, squirrel or gopher guts or whatever you're cooking, this guy right here, you know, use it once, take it home, get rid of it. Don't leave it in the woods. And let's see, do I have anything else in here? That, aside from some random cordage, is it. That's what I take with me. I feel like I have most of the bases covered in redundancy when it comes to cutting tools. But I have two forms of shelter here, or one can be a ground cloth and the other one can be a shelter. I feel like most of the time I have a little bit too much, but if I ever had to use it, I'd probably feel like it was too little. So I feel like that's probably a good place to be. Eventually, I would like to condense this down to where I could fit it all into a haversack. So I might reevaluate what I've got going on here. But honestly, excuse me, all of this stuff probably weighs, less than 10 pounds. And this, I forget what this, I think it's a LO bean bag that I've had for a long time, and it's always held up great. Oh, I see something here that I forgot to mention on the bottom. I carry this it's one of those little stools. It's a triangular piece of fabric just on top of these little legs. And that's nice to have for obvious reasons. So anyway, if you stuck with me through this whole video, I appreciate it. I really hope you accomplish anything that you try to accomplish in your life, and if you don't, I hope you gain the wisdom to try again and succeed the next time. So thank you for joining me for this video, and have a great night.